Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakum Allahu khairan for the invitation to be able to address you today. Alhamdulillah. We are hearing so much panic about a disease, about a virus. We are seeing a global pandemic that people are preparing for, and mass fear is now affecting the entire globe because of such a small creature, such a small creation of Allah. And this reminds us of the power of Allah, that Allah at any time can completely shut down the entire globe with such a small creation. Not even the big creations that He has, such as hurricanes and earthquakes and storms. No, even with the smallest creation, Allah can completely shut down the entire globe. It doesn't matter all of this advancement, all of this technology, all of this networking, where modern man feels that he is at the peak of progress and advancement. No, all of that is like nothing, like dust that the wind can just blow and take it all away by the will of Allah. This is the power of Allah, humbling mankind to the reality of His state as a small creation of Allah, servants and slaves of Allah. So how can we be arrogant in our hearts? How can we have this takabbur, where we feel that we can disobey Allah, that we can turn our back on Allah, that we can ignore, safely ignore the sunnah of His final messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Do we have the audacity to forget Allah, to ignore Allah, to ignore His commands? If you're not going to be grateful, if I and you are not going to be grateful for everything that Allah has provided for us out of His mercy, allowing us to live and breathe and enjoy all the pleasures of life that He has made permissible for us. If we are not going to be grateful for that, then maybe fear is necessary. Maybe fear is necessary. Maybe we need to fear the punishment of Allah that can come and strike at any moment. And Allah says in the Quran that when He wants to test a people, He gives them a command. He gives them a command. And if they obey the command, then that is good for them. But if they disobey His command, and they engage in lusts, and they engage in the dunya out of greed and taraf, this kind of decadence that Allah mentions in the Quran, decadence, heedlessness, ghafla, then the punishment will come. Then the punishment will come, because they have proven themselves that they are heedless of the command of Allah. They are heedless of their position as servants and slaves that must obey their master and must obey the messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they are truly deserving of that punishment because of their arrogance and heedlessness. But there are many viruses. Coronavirus. But I'd like to say a few words about the virus that attacks the mind, the virus that attacks the heart. There are many names that we can give this virus and say that this is the Modernism virus, progressivism virus, assimilation virus. This is a mental virus. This is something that affects the heart, that Muslims have to be extremely careful of. More dangerous than something that can make you ill and give you the flu. You take some medicine and you get better. More dangerous than this is the kind of virus that will take away your iman. The virus that will take away your iman and the iman of your children and your family, your wives, your spouses. This is the virus that we have to prepare for more than the virus that affects the body, because the body is limited. We all will taste death. Death. Every soul will taste death. But then what is after? The akhirah. That is the permanent abode. Where are we headed? If we are infected with a virus that can plunge us into the depths of the fire. This is the kind of virus that we have to even more so prepare for it, understand it. Have we studied this virus? Have we done research on this virus? Do we know the cure for this virus? Do we have the vaccine for this virus? What is this, the nature of this modernist virus? We already mentioned it earlier. This idea that humanity is on a constant trajectory of progress, that we are in a time and a place that we understand more than people of the past. We are morally superior to people of the past. This is a seed that is planted in every single person's mind in the modern world, through the media, through education, through culture. Constantly, this seed is being planted and fertilized and watered. This is the virus. Why is this so problematic? Why is this such a problem? Because if you truly believe and you've accepted that we are at the peak of human civilization, what does this imply for the Prophet ﷺ? What does this imply for the Sahaba and the Salaf and the prior generations, the righteous generations? If you are led to believe that we are experiencing the latest and greatest, then you will belittle and have a low opinion of the past, of the Prophet ﷺ, of his message. The Quran is from the past. And you hear this from those modernists and the people who are non-Muslims and they're atheists. And unfortunately, even some Muslims will say that we need to advance, we need to reform. We have to follow the Christians and the Jews. They had a reformation. We have to have a reformation so that we can come into the light of progress and modernity. This is the message that's given from a young age to children. And what is the result of this? The result is belittling Islam, belittling the Quran, belittling the Sunnah, belittling the ulama, the inheritors of the prophets. Where do we get this inferiority complex? People complain, why are Muslims not taking charge? Why are Muslims not being at the forefront, leading the world? Is it not the case that we have the truth? Is it not the case that we have the Quran and the Sunnah? أَلَسْنَا عَلَى الْحَقِّ? Are we not on the truth? The statement that Umar radiallahu anhu made about our condition. Are we not on the truth? Therefore we have to be at the forefront. We have to be the flag bearers with guidance from Allah that Allah has sent to the Ummah and to all of humanity. We have this responsibility in front of Allah. Then why? Why are we not in this position? And there can be many reasons, but primarily it is this virus of inferiority, this virus of modernism, that we are told constantly, no, these are the ways of old, these are the stories of old, you need to just bypass it, ignore it. We have to progress, we have to accept everything that is told to us, that is the truth. Do you truly believe what Allah has described in the Quran about the nature of reality? Is your understanding of the world dictated by what Allah has said in the Quran? Or is your understanding of reality dictated by what the secular educational system, the secular media, the non-Muslim media tells you about what is real? I remember asking some friends of mine, Muslim friends, good Muslims, Muslims that come to the masjid, and I asked them, how many times a day do you remember and reflect on the unseen and the effect of the unseen in your life? How often, is it once a day, twice a day, do you reflect on or feel the presence of barakah in your life? Barakah is something that is a reality. It affects your day-to-day life. Yes, it's of the unseen, but it's something that has an impact. And those who experience barakah, they know it, they taste it. And they become familiar with when there is barakah and when there is lack of barakah. We know that there are certain times there is barakah. In Ramadan, we know certain places that have barakah, the masjid, places where Allah is remembered. There's barakah in the remembrance of Allah. The Quran, this is all barakah. How often do you reflect, taste that, experience that in your day-to-day life? And I asked them, these are Muslims that are coming to the masjid in my immediate circle, and they said, honestly, never. It doesn't really come to our minds. Sure, we know about the concept, we read about it, and we know we've studied it. We've studied Aqidah, we know about barakah. And we go to the masjid, we listen to the imam. But I don't really think about this. Yet those same brothers will talk about the reality of coronavirus, or the reality of different developments in the scientific fields. And this time, when I was talking to them, the latest news was about this new subatomic particle they call it the God particle, that they were doing experiments in physics to discover this new subatomic particle. This is something that no one has ever seen. No one has ever, even non-Muslim, they haven't seen it, it's just a particle. Or a virus, it's just something that is not seen, but they talk about it and they shift their entire lives according to it. They feel the reality of something that the only knowledge that they have about it is what they saw on TV, or what they read in an article, or what they heard about from whoever. They're willing to change their entire lives because they feel the reality. They taste that this is real. But barakah, it doesn't even come to my mind. Malaika, the angels. There are places that angels congregate. And they go and they they send down peace in gatherings of dhikr, remembrance and mention of Allah. Do we know that? Do we taste that? I was talking to some young children memorizing the Quran. I always tell them, mashallah, the ummah loves that you're memorizing the Quran. Do you know that it's not just the ummah, not just human beings, but even fish, even birds, even animals that are loving you and praying for you, asking forgiveness for you because of what you're doing? This is a reality. Everything that exists makes tasbih, praises their Creator, their Lord. Do we feel this? Do we taste this? Are we living our lives with this reality? Or do we have an inferiority complex? Is our reality determined by what we see on the news, what we hear on the news, what non-Muslims tell us is real or not real? This is colonization of the mind. This is colonization of the heart. This is the virus that can destroy iman, can destroy taqwa. Every aspect of life. Who is dictating right and wrong? Who is dictating right and wrong? I went to another community to talk about problems facing the youth, difficulties, challenges facing the youth. And I gave the talk, and I focused the talk on the 4 enemies that the ulama have identified as the enemies of human beings, the main enemies of human beings. What are they? Shaitan, hawa, dunya, and nafs. Shaitan, you know what it means. Hawa meaning desires and ideologies and shahawat and lusts. Nafs means takabbur and self-importance and all of the diseases with the nafs. Nafsi, nafsi, nafsi. And then dunya, materialism, hubb ad-dunya, wanting more and more. أَلْهَاكُمُ التَّكَاثُرُ حَتَّى زُرْتُمُ الْمَقَابِرِ. You're concerned with increasing and competing for more and more, even when you go to visit the qabr. And the Mufassirin gave two opinions on this ayah. You are distracted by competition for more and more. When you're visiting the grave, someone else has died and you're visiting them, and you're still worried about how you're dressed. Do you have the nicest watch, or does someone else have better than you in your family? And you're concerned with the material, even when you're there at the mouth of the grave. And then the other opinion is that this is for those who, before they die, they're so concerned, I have to have this beautiful funeral, I have to have this beautiful gravestone, I have to be buried in the nicest place, with the nicest coffin. So even when it comes to death, they're concerned with materialism. So anyway, that was a side point. I'm mentioning these four enemies are just as relevant to adults, Muslims, as they are to youth. The source of all of these problems attacking the youth are also these four enemies that the ulama, for centuries, for generations, have taught and educated the community about, based on the Quran and Sunnah. So I gave this talk, elaborating each of these points, and then some people complained about this. They said that, well, we invited you, we expected you have this Harvard degree, that you're going to give us this, tell us about psychology, modern results within behavioral childhood development, and research papers and all this. That's what we expected. It's like, are you Muslims or non-Muslims? Are you Muslims or non-Muslims? Is your idea of what is the best way to raise children based on Quran and Sunnah, or is it based on what the kuffar, non-Muslims, who don't even believe in God, just they're speculating their own ahwa, their own ideologies, what they just speculate, dhann? That's what you want? You want that trash? We need to wake up. This is an inferiority complex. You think that no one has properly raised a child until Fulan lady 20 years ago wrote a paper about what's the best way to raise children? No one else knew? This is not the attitude that we have to have as believers. And I'm not saying that this is the attitude that you have, but we find it. We find it in the community. We need to reorient ourselves. We need to reorient ourselves to the truth. We need to taste and feel that we have the truth. That we have the truth. The Quran and Sunnah is the peak of not only the spiritual domain, but also how to live one's life. How to raise one's children. How to have a healthy, sound marriage. How to have good relations between parents and children. How to have good relations with your neighbors. How to have a good connection with society as a whole. Every aspect of life, Allah has sent guidance because He is the Creator. He knows what is best for us in every domain. In every domain of life. Buying and selling and business. There is guidance for it. Allah tells you what to avoid, what is haram. And He has sent a Prophet ﷺ who demonstrates the best way. And you should take from that, orient your life in accordance with that. This is the challenge that we have to undertake. And then to bring it to the conclusion and connect it to the beginning. This idea that we are at the peak of civilization now and we can belittle our past, belittle the Quran and Sunnah and think we know better now in this day and age. This misunderstanding, this myth, this deadly, poisonous idea that is planted into every person's mind, Muslim and non-Muslim, in this world for the past 200 years, since the beginning of colonization of the Muslim world, where the British, the French, and the Dutch, they attacked the Muslim world. They attacked and they colonized and they subjugated. And they are the ones who introduced this idea that you are less than, your ways, your Quran and Sunnah, your ulama, these are backward, this is blind following, this has been superseded. It's mansukh. It's been abrogated with our truth, with our reality, with our science and our technology. So you have to throw it in the trash because we have abrogated it. This is the lie that has been sold and implanted, and now we have reached such a state. Many Muslims, not all, alhamdulillah, many Muslims have reached such a state that they don't realize this subjugation. They're suffering from Stockholm Syndrome, where the one who is subjugated begins to love and admire the one who has subjugated him. Now we don't even recognize this brainwashing program, this virus. But global pandemics that everyone is seeing now and fearing, this is a reminder to bring us out of our sleepful state, to remind us that Allah is fully in control. All of this technology that you had with US as the superpower dominating the whole world, brought to their knees because of one of the smallest creatures that Allah has created. To remind us and to show us, no, this is not progress. This is just you have built a house of sand and a little bit of water can wash it away at any moment. So I'll leave you with that thought. Jazakum Allahu khairah for listening. May Allah give us the tawfiq to reorient our lives, to bring our lives in true obedience to Him and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to change our condition. If we change what is in our hearts, Allah will change our condition. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.